So she's gonna get out from under there. You know better than this.
Okay.
Feet first, right?
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm Deanna Albersworth.
And I'm Seth Albersworth, and we're here at the elitefts compound, and we're gonna talk to you guys about squatting out of a monolift for the first time. So the biggest difference between squatting out of a monolift and squatting out of a power rack is the monolift, you don't have to walk the bar out, which you'd think would make it a lot simpler, but because you don't have that opportunity to take the few steps to get yourself settled, you have to make sure that you're doing so much more right before you even think about taking the bar out. So the most important thing when you guys are squatting out of a monolift for the first time is getting your rack height right. You want to make sure that you're able to clear the hooks when you have weight on the bar, because when the bar gets heavy, it's going to bend a little bit, the mono's going to flex, and you want to make sure that you have room to actually get out of the rack. You also want to make sure that the hooks aren't too low so that you're not doing half a squat to get it up and wasting energy just to unrack the bar. So when you guys are running a monolift for the first time, make sure you get that rack height right. So just walk up to the bar. You should have a fairly good idea of where the height needs to be based on where you put it in a power rack. But the easiest way to tell is just to stand it up. You see where Miana has it now, it's barely clearing the hooks. So once she gets weight on the bar and everything's compressed down, she might not make it out. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna drop in a couple holes for her. Have her get under the bar again. So now you guys can see, when she stands the bar up, she has that couple inches of clearance so the hooks can swing free and not worry about clipping the bar. So when you're actually setting up to squat, something else that's very important is making sure that your feet are under the bar. Because you aren't walking out the bar, where your feet start is where they need to be through the entire squat. So what I always like lifters to do is set up by putting their feet under the bar first. You want to make sure that your midfoot is directly under the bar, so we'd have Miana scoot her feet forward about ½ an inch. Cool. So from there, she's going to make sure that she's squeezing the bar as hard as possible, and she's going to pull herself underneath it. Once she's under the bar and the bar is on her back, she's going to then try to pull the bar down into her upper back to get tension through her lats. Once she has tension in her lats, she's going to make sure that her rib cage and pelvis are stacked on top of each other. She's going to then let her knees come forward a little bit and pull her hips underneath the bar. You want your hips underneath the bar so you're just standing it straight up rather than doing like a shitty good morning to get it out of the rack. Once your hips are under the bar, she can just push into the floor, and that's how you unrack out of a mono.
So once you figured out what your height is, it's going to be your job to remember what number you are or what placing you are. You're going to make sure that this peg goes into the hole. When you're switching from person to person, you're going to use the pump to bring it up. Make sure it goes into that hole, and then you're always going to clear it to bring it back down. Always release the mono. Once you're under the bar and you've stood it up, you're going to have your training partner pull the hook. Hips under, ribs down, head back, stand it up. Once I've stood it up, it's basically a go.
My job to open it up.
It's basically his cue to pull the hook. From there, as long as you're cleared the J's, squat down, back up. Hopefully you've told your training partner how many reps you're gonna do, and when you're done, he's gonna pull it back in.
So another common mistake we see with new lifters on monos is their foot position. You can either have your feet too far forward under the bar, and once you get under it, you'll kind of have the tendency to unrack it into the front of the hooks, and when doing that, when the hooks get pulled, it'll want to tip you forward. Oftentimes too, you see lifters with their feet way too far behind the bar, and they'll really struggle to get under the rack just because the leverages when your feet are behind it are absolutely terrible, and you can't really push into the bar and end up kind of doing an awkward good morning to get it out. What you want to do is make sure that your midfoot is directly underneath the bar. That way, the center of mass is over your foot, everything's in line, and you can just stand it up out of the rack. Good enough?
That was great.
Okay.
So, yeah, that could easily be like a 3 things. Yeah.
Yep.
That'd be good.
Talk about too how it is important to get tight before you actually unrack it.
Yeah, because I imagine you see a lot of people
Yep.
kind of sloppy
Yep.
that unrack. Right?
So when you're squatting out of a power rack or an IPF style combo rack, you can kind of get away with being a little bit sloppy when you unrack the bar, just because you have that walkout to situate yourself. With the monolift, because you're standing in the same place, you don't have that walkout, you don't have any really extra opportunity to try to get tight after the bar comes out of the hooks. You want to get as tight as possible before you actually unrack the bar. That way everything's locked in, everything's lined up, and as soon as the hooks are cleared, you're good to squat.
If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. We also did a deadlift video here at the compound. Make sure you watch that as well. Thanks, guys.